Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the African Students Leadership Academy. Today we have a special guest, on the studio. I'm talking about Chris Foltz, a renowned startup advisor in the US, who is making global impacts around the world. He is the managing director of the Silicon Valley-based global advisory firm, the Responsible Solutions. Okay, good. He is the founder Institute's entrepreneur in residence in Silicon Valley, the world's largest pre-seed startup accelerator. He also serves on the Founder Institute Global Leadership Team, Founder X Advisory Committee, and mentors startup founders in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, Philadelphia, London, Amsterdam, Luxembourg, Sweden, Greece, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Uganda, Cameroon, Colombia, India, Central Asia, Middle East. I mentioned Nigeria before. Let me mention Nigeria again.
Always mention Nigeria. Best place in Africa. Love it.
Yeah. So why I mentioned Nigeria again is because the first one I talked about was his role at the Founder Institute. I'm now talking about the second Nigerian mention is his role at the Ugwumba Leadership Center as our international advisor. He has contributed a lot in the ecosystem, and we appreciate his efforts. We appreciate his contributions. So, ladies and gentlemen, here with you, I present to you Chris Foltz from the USA. And sir, before I allow you to start bombarding us, I want to let you know that the kids that you have this morning, they are the children of Rochas Foundation College for Africa. I made an introduction on that. I'll let you know who they are. These are children from less privileged homes across Africa, from South Sudan, from Ethiopia, from Cameroon, from Niger Republic, from around Africa. These ones were brought into Nigeria to be trained by the Rochas Foundation. Rochas Foundation, one of our partners. And as we speak, very good. And as we speak, these ones, they have been here for over 6 years and they have graduated after completing their secondary education, and they are waiting admissions into universities around the world with the support of Rochas Foundation and its partners. They are waiting for admission into universities in the UK, in the US, in Europe, and around the world. And as we speak, like I told you before, Rochas Foundation has trained over 30,000 students from less privileged families in Nigeria, and now the Rochas Foundation for Africa, the ones that have these students as the first set. So it's a pleasure to have you to speak to them about becoming resilient. This is a sure better topic or message that these kids need, because they have seen poverty, they have seen crisis, they have suffered humiliation, different types of violations, but they have been brought together into the Rochas family, and they have been their minds have been reoriented, and they have been rebuilt for success. So this morning, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hand over to you these kids for you to do justice to what you know to do best around the world. Thank you and welcome, Chris Foltz. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me, Remy. Thank you, everyone. So excited to be here. I don't necessarily see a room of kids. I see a room full of people that are going to change the world, right? Overcome obstacles and really lead the future. And that's what really brings me into working with organizations like this, my passion to help people eliminate their obstacles. So I'm going to share a few stories with you today that you might find interesting. Let me bring up my presentation here, Remy, and then we'll get started. Once we see that up on the screen, let me see here. Is it, there it is, it's showing. So today, I've been asked to come here and talk to you about the importance of being a resilient leader. And first of all, what does that even mean, to be resilient, to have grit? I look at it as this. It's all about overcoming your life obstacles so you can change the world. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of how I've done that and how people I've worked with have come from places way far behind to actually make a difference. Now, one thing that I've learned for certain in my entire career is that the biggest obstacle that we will all face on our pathway to changing the world, to being what we want to be in life, isn't just business, isn't competition. Our biggest obstacle is ourselves. And what do I mean by that? It's simply the way that we think about all the things that we faced in our life, good and bad. And the way you think about it is what gives you the power to actually overcome obstacles and change the world. Now, I've come up with the series of rules of what it takes to actually change the world. And, I wanted to share a couple of these with you tonight. Now, we've all faced obstacles. We've all faced challenges. I get it. And you're going to understand that I relate to you more than you know this evening, early this morning. It's actually early for me in the morning as well. One of the first things I realized in life, that we cannot blame other people for obstacles. It doesn't matter if somebody's at fault. But the moment that we blame other people for the hurdles and challenges that we face in life is the moment that we no longer have the ability to change it. So rule number one, I want you all to remember, don't blame other people for your obstacles, because that's what empowers us to actually make change in our lives, in the lives of people around us. And that's the first step to being a resilient leader. Now, changing the world requires a lot, but what it certainly requires more than anything is the ability to tell a good story, to tell people about your life, to tell people about your ideas, to tell people about your vision and your goals. That is a major requirement. But before I tell you a bunch of stories about a bunch of success and victories and glory, I'm going to tell you a story about failure, which brings me to my life story and my failure. I come from this town, Rockford, Illinois, not too far from Chicago, right in the middle of America. And although many people haven't heard of this town, it's known for this famous band from the 80s. It's known from this baseball team from a movie called A League of Their Own. But you see, what I knew about growing up was that this town was named one of the most dangerous cities in America. This town with only 150,000 people landed on the list of one of the scariest places to live in the entire country of the United States. Now, normally that wouldn't matter so much, except that I grew up in a house where both of my parents were police officers, right? My mom was one of the first female detectives ever investigating crime in the country, that in a major metropolitan city. And my dad was the hostage negotiator, a sniper on the SWAT team. These were top-of-the-line law enforcement. And when you grow up in a town that has such a high crime rate, things like having police officer parents isn't necessarily an easy thing to deal with every day, whether they're leaving the house to go deal with their job, or whether our house is a target because people didn't like the fact they were arrested by them. So where most people thought that little me was going to grow up and be a police officer just like my parents, I know for certain that when you grow up in a house with two police officers, the only thing I cared about being was an astronaut. The furthest thing possible, the furthest possible place I can be away from my hometown full of crime was up in space. And I thought for sure that I was going to get there. So much so that when I was a young child, I was chosen by NASA to be participating in an experiment with NASA, our space program in America, by the time I was 10 years old. I went to the United States Space Academy, and I was really excited. Even though I was young, I was on my path to become an astronaut and fly to space. But when I went to Space Academy, they told me something that was kind of shocking. They told me I was too fat to be an astronaut when I grew up. See, I was always overweight as a kid. We'd call it chubby to be polite. But evidently, when you become an adult, you have to be able to fit into the spacesuit. So they looked at me right away and said, listen, young kid, unless you get your body in order, you're never going to fit into a spacesuit, and you're never going to be able to be an astronaut. So I asked my camp counselor, I said, well, who sets these rules? I want to change them. And they said, no problem. All you have to do is reach out to the President of the United States, because they're the ones who set these rules. Now, mind you, I'm a young kid at this point. I don't necessarily have access to the President of the United States, but I set out on a path to get there, and I'm going to show you how I did it. You see, my uncle, growing up, he was a law enforcement lobbyist. Those are the people that go to Washington, D.C. and try to present the new laws to get Congress to vote on them in America. And he represented a lot of interesting cases for law enforcement and things about gun safety in America. So he was fairly well known. So I went to my uncle and said, "Uncle, I want to be president of the United States." Now, he knew right away that this was kind of an unlikely thing to happen for a young 12 to 15-year-old kid. But what he did do is he got me involved with somebody he knew, this guy named Peter Fitzgerald. Now, this guy was running for the United States Senate, one of our great leading bodies in America. And by the time I was 15, I became his youth director, in charge of all the campaign for people that weren't old enough to vote yet. We figured that if we got young students to care about politics, then chances are their parents would vote for the person they care about as well. So my first political career job that mattered was working on this person's campaign. Now, we ended up winning that campaign against all odds. We fought battles nobody thought we would, and we won. And he introduced me to my next campaign, which this other old white guy, seems like everybody in American politics is old white guys, but at least I'm honest about that. He said to me, he said, "Chris, one thing that you have to know in Congress is that there are these committees that run things." And this guy, Congressman Don Manzullo, was in charge of the Small Business Committee, literally the committee that sets the rules for businesses, startups, hair salons, big corporations, all went through this person's committee. And I got involved in his campaign before I was old enough to vote. And we did amazing things. We got amazing people elected to office. We changed a lot of lives. And he made another introduction for me, the first time I got involved in a big national race. This lady right here, her name was Elizabeth Dole. Now, a lot of people have heard of the American Red Cross. She was the president of the American Red Cross throughout the entire world. At the same time, prior in her career, she was the Secretary of Transportation, in charge of all the infrastructure in America. And prior to that, she was Secretary of Labor, in charge of all the jobs in America. So this is a wildly successful woman, and she said, "I'm going to run for president of the United States." Now, there's not that many women that have ran for president of the United States. So I was really excited about this. Now, I wasn't even old enough to vote, and I'm working on my first presidential race. Her husband was the leader of the United States Senate, so she had a lot of recognition in society, not just for her own stuff, but for the fact of who her family was. So this was amazing. We thought for sure we were going to win president, get the first female elected president in America. So we fought the hardest that we possibly could. And in the early race, we came in third. We didn't get there. And it was devastating. This was the first time in my life that I realized that sometimes other people set obstacles in front of you that make it very hard for you to get somewhere, no matter how good you are. No matter how much your background is, obstacles still are there for everyone, even this lady who had everything going for her. So unfortunately, we dropped out of this race. And this guy who was her campaign manager, he came to us. He said, "Listen, don't get your hopes down, Chris. Don't get your hopes down, campaign staff. There's this dude down in Texas, and we think he has a chance to possibly go somewhere in politics." Well, that dude down in Texas was George W. Bush. And this was the first time I was involved in a campaign that was going all the way. Before I was even old enough to vote, I got involved in the President of the United States campaign. Now, this was very interesting. I got to travel around the country, meet amazing people. We got elected to office. It's pretty exciting when you get elected to President of the United States. And here I was, from that young, chubby kid that set out a path to meet the president and tell them that I wanted to change the rules for the spacesuits so I can fit into them even as I'm overweight. And here I was standing next to the President of the United States on a regular basis. It was an amazing journey over a couple years. Now, during that whole time, politics became my thing. I was involved in every possible political race at the time. I even had blonde highlights in my hair and cool sunglasses, right? I was really trying to be the next big leader in politics. But you see, when you get involved in politics at a young age, when they write about you in all the newspapers for being a young leader in politics, it really sets a lot of expectations. And sometimes expectations of the future become an obstacle. In my case, there was another obstacle. You see, in politics, I was known for fixing problems for people, solving problems other people couldn't. And one of the things that was interesting was I came across the problem I couldn't solve. You see, I grew up in an Italian family, raised by 4 women, well, 3 women. I might as well have been a woman. I was raised by 3 women. It was a very interesting thing when you grow up in an Italian household ran by women. You see, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. And when somebody gets diagnosed with cancer in an Italian family, it doesn't matter if you work for the president, it doesn't matter what you do, you come home to help mom. Now, during this time, previously in my life, I had my wisdom teeth removed. It wasn't a very painful procedure, but they give you a lot of medicine in America. We overprescribe people. And in a matter of a couple weeks, I did a 3-month supply of Vicodin, an opiate drug, meant to just get rid of pain from dental surgery. I did it all. And when you do something like that, one of 2 things happen. You either die or you end up an addict. And I'm here today, so luckily I'm here to report I didn't die. But what I did become was a horrible addict. And unfortunately, during this process of my addiction to drugs, my mother passed away. You see, my mom wasn't just a normal police officer. She was a pioneer. My mom fought for equality for females in law enforcement. Before her, it was policeman and policewoman. After her, it was police officer. And as you can see, they honored her in this article on the front page of our hometown newspaper, female officer remembered as a pioneer. But if you look closely at this article, you'll notice this. Her son, which is me, was arrested for theft at the funeral home. You see, I became so dependent on drugs that I'm over here stealing things at a funeral home to make sure I can pay for my drug addiction at my mother's funeral. If that wasn't the lowest possible thing you can do, I don't know what else there was. And you see, when you do dumb things like that and you have drugs taking over your life and your mom just died and you're arrested at a funeral home, it doesn't turn out very good. And the first political campaign I ever volunteered for in my life was for a judge, somebody that sends people to jail. And when he found out what I did at my mom's funeral, and he was a good friend with my mom, he decided he had a plan for me after my mom's funeral. And that plan was to spend the next 4 months of my life living in this jail with people that my parents have arrested throughout their career. So when you move into jail, I say move in like it was an option. When you're forced to go to jail for being kind of foolish, a drug addict, you start to meet a lot of interesting people. And a lot of these interesting people, although they were considered criminals in America, they were very smart. They had amazing street businesses. They had amazing leadership qualities. They just went down the wrong path. They didn't know how to handle their obstacles. But what I realized is that we all shared a lot of similar purposes. We all shared challenges. We all shared drive. We all wanted to change the world in our own way. So I decided that when I got out of jail, that I was going to create a company to help people start over and eliminate their obstacles. And I did exactly that. And you see, what I learned is that in my life prior to this point, I spent so much time talking about all the success, all of the victories in my life. And what I realized that while we spend so much time talking about our success, life is 100%, and our success is 100%. Based on how we react to our failures, how we choose to decide overcoming our obstacles. That's exactly what life is all about. So what I'm going to bring us to is rule number 2. Rule number 1, if we remember, don't blame other people for our own obstacles. Rule number 2 is don't take the victim stance. While it's important not to blame people, it's also important not to think of ourselves as victims of our own obstacles. Because the moment that we do that, we eliminate the ability to create a path around them. We put the power into other people's hands. We put the power into the obstacles' hands. So it's important to never blame people for our obstacles. It's just as much important to not be a victim of our obstacles. And I'm going to tell you why today. You see, one of the things that was very important to me was I wanted to figure out, how do I turn obstacles into solutions? Here, I never finished college. A lot of people think, most of my people that I work with have PhDs and MBAs. I left early from college to travel on that presidential campaign that you saw for George W. Bush, and then the campaign after that. So I never got my degree. So people said, I'm never going to be taken serious. I'm underqualified or unqualified for both. And I already at this point racked up so much college debt paying for college that during the time I was in jail, I stopped making payments on this. So now I had collections against me for finance, and it made it impossible for me to get my degree. So although I didn't necessarily do that, I became one of the top ranked professors for business in one of the top schools in the country. I became one of the leading alumni at that school I don't even have a degree in. And I became one of the leading teachers for entrepreneurs amongst the 36,000 mentors we have at Founder Institute, because I didn't let the obstacle of not having a college degree stand in my way. And I didn't let people tell me I couldn't do something. I didn't listen to people when they say I was unqualified. And I certainly didn't let a debt stop me from getting to a place where I could repay it. And then what I realized is, well, I got that kind of figured out, but now I'm a felon. I went to jail. I was a drug addict. Surely people are going to think that that's a problem. The stigma alone of being an addict is horrible for everyone, let alone the child of 2 police officers. There's also legal limitations in America if you've been arrested and have a felony, right? You can't do certain things. And then with that, my career prospects would be low. So I started a company that became the fastest growing public relations firm in the world. I started not necessarily focusing on get a job. I became an employer instead of an employee. I was even to the point when I was out of jail, I had a probation officer that basically made sure I didn't get in trouble. 10 years almost to the day that I was released from jail, that probation department became a client of my company. So I go from being somebody that was on the wrong side of the tracks, that they have to monitor every day to make sure they're not going to do it again. Those people became my client, and they brought me in to help innovate that probation department, to help people like me get a second chance. And then this past year, I was named as one of the top CMOs in the world by the Institute for Real Growth. So although I faced the obstacles of having a felon and having addiction and not necessarily meeting all the standards, I exceeded every single one because I didn't give up. I did not bend into my obstacles. I blamed no one, and I didn't take a victim stance. Gosh, I was on the way to becoming a truly resilient leader. But then the only thing I ever knew in my life was politics. And I was basically canceled in politics. When you go to jail as a Republican political strategist, they certainly don't necessarily like that in their ranks. People told me that because all I've ever done in politics, it was going to be hard for me ever to find anything. My life is over. They told me that I'll never be able to get elected to public office because, well, I've done a lot of foolish things prior to this. And they said that I would never be allowed in the Republican Party again, which is the party that I grew up in. Well, one thing you realize is that when you go to jail as a Republican in America, you most often come out as a Democrat. So although I couldn't get involved in Republican Party politics, I got involved in Democrat Party politics. Here I am with the governor of California, the ambassador of Japan, some of the top leaders in the Democrat Party. Matter of fact, I got the first female elected in one of the Chicagoland areas in 100 years. They had never elected female mayor until I became her campaign manager as a Democrat consultant and got her elected. And I spent 3 terms in public office myself, leading in community, helping change the way people's lives unfold for them through eliminating their obstacles. I literally did every single thing that people say I couldn't do. And you're like, Chris, what's the secret to this? How is that even possible? Well, changing the world requires vision. It requires the ability for you to take ideas and think beyond the limitations of them, think beyond the obstacles, and do things that matter. Now, you can be successful in life without having vision, but it won't matter. Well, what do I mean by that? How can you have vision? How can you have success? And how can that not matter? You see, what I realized when I got in the business world is that there are requirements for success, right? It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has requirements. To have short-term success, all you need is an idea. You need a place to hype, and you need something to hype. You need just simply one victory. I can go on right now and create a fake product and go on social media and sell it, make a bunch of money. That'll give me short-term success, but it won't matter, and I'll probably end up back in jail. So short-term success isn't enough to change the world. What about long-term success? What's the difference between having long-term success in business versus short-term success? Well, you can't just have an idea. You have to have a solution in order to have long-term success. But in addition to that, you need to have a large enough market to actually have people care enough to buy it, right? That's very key. You need to have a business model that's going to keep your company going, to keep your product going, not just to have an idea, but a solution that people want to buy. And you see, to have long-term success, it requires you to have outcomes beyond just what you say. There needs to be a victory for you, but then there also needs to be a victory for your stakeholders, your customers, your employees, your teammates. They need a win too. They need to be happy with what they get. But long-term success isn't enough to change the world either. Maybe you have a great career, maybe you'll be happy. Changing the world comes with some other rules. You see, there is when you need vision. You need to actually solve something, not just have a solution, not just have an idea. You need to actually solve a problem. And you need to have a plan to handle this. You see, I never planned things prior. I was in politics. There was no planning. You live on a 24-hour cycle. You're constantly doing things. You don't even have enough time to plan. But to have change the world level success, you need to plan. And one thing that I found out is that you even need to get your competitors to support you. Because you see, and you're going to understand what I mean later when I give an example of this, because having changed the world level success requires you to have 3 wins. A win for you, a win for all your stakeholders, and a win for the world as well. And your competitors are part of that same world. So now that I've kind of laid out some requirements for success, I'm going to tell you that I thought about my life up to this point. And I had a lot of short-term success. I had a lot of long-term success. I did big things with that consulting firm that I told you I started. But you see, that wasn't enough. I had the wonderful office building. I had a full floor in it. I had an amazing team. Here's the entrance to my personal office, for that matter. It was really cool. Obviously, I love the color green, as you can tell. A bit obsessed at the point. I had an amazing team. We did such amazing things. But just like my mother, when she died of cancer, I got a call at the peak of my success from back home. And they told me that my best friend, the person that I got into drug addiction with, they found him dead of a drug overdose. And I didn't know how to handle this, right? I didn't know what I want to do. All I knew is that all that short-term and long-term success and all the resiliency that I built up as a leader didn't matter. It didn't stop my friend from dying. So I figured, what am I going to do next? Well, I decided that I was going to leave this office and I was going to find a place in Chicago that I can make a real impact. Not just for a bunch of people that already have things and making them look better in public relations. So I teared down the letters on the wall, packed everything up, loaded up U-Hauls over the course of a week, and then I decided that we were going to move our office to the 13th most dangerous community in America. Just like I grew up in community number 14 on this list, now I was going to go to the most dangerous neighborhood in the city of Chicago, in which I found this somewhat abandoned office space. It looked rather scary inside. And we moved our office to what most people thought was a pure business death sentence. We weren't going to ever do anything. We were giving up when in fact we were just beginning. We moved in and we got to work. We decided that we wanted to change the world level success path. We wanted to take vision and do something with it. So I closed down my normal public relations firm and I created a policy institute where we were out here looking at problems. We created a nonprofit, and if people couldn't afford to hire people to fix it, we were going to fix it for them. We created an initiative called Move Chicago Forward, where we got some of the leading stakeholders, the people that cared about change, together into rooms on a regular basis and helped collaboratively solve problems for people around the city and beyond. We changed thousands of lives. We saved municipal governments millions of dollars. We changed the way people thought about who they were in life. So much so that I was honored by the Nobel family, the same people that give out the Nobel Prize, as a World Peace Ambassador for contributions to humanity, just because I wasn't scared to stand up and be a resilient leader, not just for myself, but help other people become resilient leaders as well. And there's plenty of stories about this on the internet. The BBC does a good job talking about it, and there's a special. So if you Google my name and BBC, you can hear all about how we got to that point. But that was just the beginning. Because you see, with rule number 3, what I learned from all of this is what my destiny in life was, why I'm here today, is to help eliminate obstacles for other people. Because sometimes it's hard for people to eliminate their obstacles. Sometimes it's hard to even face them. But by focusing on obstacles that are large enough to matter and small enough to overcome, that's how you're going to help other people get where they want to go in life. So I'm going to tell you a couple stories briefly about how we help some people eliminate obstacles and how they change the world with it. Case study number 1. Take note of this. This is when you eliminate your own obstacles and it solves other people's goals in life. I had this guy, he's a doctor, he came to me and he said, "Chris, listen, I've got a surgical center in Chicago, in one of the underprivileged neighborhoods. And you see, there's a problem, because as a business, I constantly want to get more patients to come in and use our facility for health care. But you see, the challenge with it is the patients are often aren't not the ones that pay the bills. Somebody else pays the bills for this." And I'm like, "What do you mean somebody else pays the bills, doctor?" He said to me, he said, "Listen, there's a very small percentage of people that come in. We don't have universal health care in America. Our health care system is oftentimes poor in the U.S. And he says that people come in, they don't pay cash for surgery, smallest group of people. But in America, we do have a private insurance industry that's fairly big." He said a large portion of his patients came in with some of the top insurance policies. And let's say they needed to have shoulder surgery or perhaps knee surgery so they can get back to work. That may be a $50,000 US dollar surgery. And the insurance company would pay maybe all of it, but 2,000 American dollars. They'd pay all of it, but 1.5 million Naira, right? And which was a fairly small amount by comparison to how much the actual surgery cost. But what this doctor found out is that oftentimes people couldn't afford that small amount. So because they couldn't come up with that small amount in order for the insurance companies to pay the big amount, they never got the surgery. They never overcame their obstacles, and they never got themselves back to work. But he came to me and said, "Listen, the largest group of patients that I see are people that are on the government insurance model, which means they don't even have to pay for anything. There is no copay." And what he said to me was so sad. He said, "Chris, the reason why a lot of these people don't get the surgeries they need is because they can't afford to take a couple days off of work to recover. They can't afford transportation to get into the medical center to actually have the surgery. You see, their barriers are really small, and that prevented them from getting these life-changing surgeries. It prevented them from getting back into the workforce. It prevented them from living normal lives." So it was interesting. I was hired to be a marketing consultant. So I had access to see how much money this company was spending on marketing, public relations. So what we did is I said, "Doctor, do me a favor. Will you add up how much all of these small expenses were for the last year, whether it be the small rates to get to surgery, to pay to give somebody a couple days off of work, to pay the co-pays for people that couldn't afford them, and come back to me in a couple days with that number." And then I was going to go and add up all the marketing numbers. And I was shocked. What we realized is that we spent more money on marketing than it would be for us to pay for all of those small expenses. Because you see, when people actually came in to get the surgery, if we paid those small expenses, my client here would get the big checks from the insurance companies to actually pay for it. It would actually help his business if we paid these small amounts. So we decided to come up with something in a matter of 7 days, and this is what we did. We came up with this name, Project Hugs, helping uninsured get surgery. We were going to eliminate barriers for people that couldn't get their own surgeries because they didn't have insurance. So on a Monday, we came up with the name and created this logo. On Tuesday, we put up a simple website to show people, hey, listen, we have some offer for the world. We're launching this program. We want your support. We wanted to raise small dollar donations from people because we thought that would help help us get there quicker. We decided that we were going to create an influencers group in which we went and found dozens of people. There was 3 or 4 pages of people like this, all of which were leaders in Chicago, people from the news. I'm down at the bottom. I was much younger and cooler looking in that photo, but there I am. And ultimately, they helped us tell a bunch of people. Now, one of the people that heard about this is somebody you may have heard of, Bill Clinton. He was president of the United States before George W. Bush, the one that I worked on the campaign. And he was coming to town and he wanted to meet us. So for something that started on a Monday, by Friday we were invited to the Clinton Global Initiative, and by Saturday we walked away with a $15 million commitment towards solving this problem, eliminating the barriers for people, for an idea that we had just to help people get their lives better. That's being a resilient leader. My client caring about eliminating other people's obstacles got him towards his business goal. So much so that it landed on somebody else's desk and they wanted to come meet us as well. First Lady Michelle Obama came and she said, listen, we're so proud of what you're doing here. And she was doing a lot of initiatives to help people get healthy and fit. So she became a supporter of our cause and we supported her all along. So that's how you take an idea that's actually vision that can change the world in a matter of 7 days, get in the same room with the President of the United States, in a matter of 2 months later, be with the First Lady of the United States. Amazing times. That's what happens when you help other people eliminate their own barriers. Case study number 2. When eliminating other people's obstacles actually solve your nonprofit mission. In America, like many places around the world, non-governmental organizations and nonprofits are a big deal. But they're businesses too, and you got to have success, right? So that means you have to make sure you have enough sustainability. You have to bring money in order to change the world. This lady came to me and she said, listen, Chris, I love what you do. I love how you're helping eliminate barriers. I want to tell you a little bit about my foundation. She had something called a Safe Haven Foundation. She started this, and this is an organization that helps homeless people get their lives back, give them their first place to live, help them get off drugs and alcohol, find their first jobs. And she said, Chris, I would love for you to come see what we have going on at a Safe Haven. We do so many amazing things, housing services, behavioral health, job training and placement, much similar to Remy and all the things that this great organization are doing on a regular basis. They were doing for people that were starting their lives over. And she said, listen, I want you to come take a look at our facility. And it happened to be in that same neighborhood that I moved to, one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the country. Now, I was not expecting. I thought I was going to come to a fairly rundown building. And instead, I came to this gorgeous, sprawling estate where everyone inside was homeless before. And everyone inside had a smile on their face. You see, a Safe Haven Foundation figured something out. They figured out if they eliminated the barriers for people to get jobs, then perhaps they wouldn't be homeless. If they eliminated barriers for them to have a place to stay overnight while they're getting to life together, maybe they wouldn't have the challenges and keep having to start over. So what she told me is they did this in a unique way. She asked me, she said, Chris, have you ever seen all these flowers that are planted in downtown Chicago? Now, Chicago's known for having these beautiful tulips all up and down the downtown area. She said, do you know who plants those? Do you know who puts those in? And I said, no, probably the city of Chicago. She said, no. That's a Safe Haven's landscaping company. I'm like, landscaping company? I thought you were a homeless shelter. You see, what Nellie figured out is that if you give people opportunity, if you train them on actual things that matter, in this case, how to become a landscaper, how to become somebody that's a gardener, and then you go and create other businesses inside your organization. They created a catering company, a pest control company, in addition to the landscaping company. You train everybody how to do this, and then go back to places like the city of Chicago and say, listen, city of Chicago, we've got a landscaping company made up of a bunch of people that have eliminated their own obstacles in their life. A bunch of resilient leaders, a bunch of people that don't blame people for their obstacles, a bunch of people that don't take a victim stance, and a bunch of people that care about eliminating obstacles for other people. You should hire us to do your tulip planting. You should hire us to do your catering. You should hire us to do your pest control. And that's exactly what they did. They got more contracts than most landscaping companies because they did things for the right reasons. They got more catering contracts than anyone because they had great food, of course. I love food. It was good. But because they did it for the right reasons. Then they created a staffing agency inside because not everybody wanted to work for the companies inside of this. But then there was another barrier that people face. You see, when you become homeless, there's a challenge, right? You're missing things like identification, birth certificates, some of the main things that you may have lost. So she decided that we wanted to raise some money and see what we can do to help people. So she decided she was going to do a charity run, the Run to End Homelessness. I don't run. As you know, I was the chubby kid that wanted to be an astronaut, but I certainly had a team, and I went out there and I did this walk version of the Run to End Homelessness. And she said to me, Chris, one of the things that would be great would be to go out here and find some sponsors. You know, we do all the things. We have the marketing material. We'll put people's logos on everything that we do. But you see, I want to do something different. I want to find a sponsor that's going to help us create a program that's going to get people their first ID cards after they start over, get them their first bank account after they start over. So we found this startup called Mozito in America, and they were doing everything they could to eliminate underserved banking, the underbanked. Sometimes people don't even have the proper identification to open a bank account, let alone have ID to get a job. So we went to them and said, listen, we would love for your donation to go to fund people that graduate a safe haven getting their first bank account with their picture on it. And then we went to the people that were in charge of IDs in the state of Illinois and asked them if they would do something for us, if they would make this meet the standards for people to get their driver's license, for people to get an actual ID. And they did it. You see, Nellie Vasquez Rowland, the lady that I'm talking about here, she realized that if she helped people eliminate these small barriers, even a barrier to get an ID, that's going to help them get everywhere they want. This organization is now worth about 40 million United States dollars. They make more than $20 million a year of impact into communities across the country. And they're some of the largest impactors of retired veterans, getting them off the streets and cutting down the rate of homelessness in America. So very proud that this lady thought about limiting the right barriers. Didn't just think about putting people's logos on a document, putting fancy marketing materials up like normally people spend sponsorship dollars. She put her money to a place that mattered, to eliminate barriers for other people. So honored to be part of that organization. The final case study I'm going to tell you about tonight is when eliminating your competition's obstacles actually solves your life goals. Now, why would you want to eliminate your competition's obstacles, right? A lot of us, we want to win, right? So the last thing we want to do is help people that are competing against us. This lady came to me. Her name is Monica. She's originally from Poland. And she said, listen, Chris, I've got a startup, and my life goal is to get my shoes on Amazon and sell them on Amazon. Now, this was before Amazon was very easy for people to sell their own items on. It was only the top producers. And she says, my goal is to get my shoe line called Style Up Girl at the time. My goal is to get these shoes on Amazon and to have one of the top selling shoe companies in America. So I'm like, all right, this is interesting. So I went to her website to look at the shoes. And I was a bit scared. They were like shoes like this. Maybe it's fashionable and trendy, but there were spikes all over them. It was bizarre. I didn't know whatever it was. But she told me a story. She said, Chris, every single day when I walk to the office in Chicago, I walk by a homeless person that holds a sign. And it says that I want shoes. I need shoes. Now here, this young lady, she had a shoe company, but not the type of shoes that this guy needed. He certainly wasn't going to wear these. But every single day he didn't have a pair of shoes on his feet. So she came to me and said, Chris, I want to solve this problem. What I want to do is when we mail people a new pair of shoes and they buy it on the website, then what we're going to do is we're going to send them a prepaid envelope that has a sticker that can go on the box. And if they send us a pair of their old shoes back, we'll give them a discount on our website to buy another pair of shoes. And then we'll take those old pair of shoes and get them to people that don't have shoes, people that are in need. And I thought this was an amazing idea. I wanted to be part of it. She wanted to call it Happy Box. Now, although that's a cute name, it doesn't really say anything. So I sat with her and we came up with this name. You know, we're giving back through a box. We're going to call it Give Back Box. Now, as simple as this may sound, this is how we started out. This was going to be a marketing campaign for her Style Up Girl shoe line. And we were going to basically use this to help get this lady's shoes on Amazon and make an impact, right, for her business. So we created a social media graphic. That's the actual graphic that we put on the internet. Nothing too fancy. We literally printed out her logo on pieces of paper, taped it on a cardboard box, and did this photo shoot. We created an envelope that we put inside of the shoe boxes. This was all part of the pilot. This was all part of our marketing campaign. And then we called a Safe Haven, that nonprofit I just told you about. Since we couldn't necessarily go up and down the streets and hand out shoes, we asked them, since they work for these people and help fight homelessness, if they would help get these shoes. And they said, we'd love to. They didn't think it was going to get very far. They didn't think it would have really gone anywhere because it's just a marketing campaign. So we sent out our first boxes and we crossed our fingers. And then our first boxes came back in. This is Monica in one of my offices in Chicago. You can see a couple of the boxes there, and there was a big box behind them. So I went and opened the big box. I'm like, wow, I can't believe people are sending us this many shoes. I hope they're not scary high heels like the ones she sells on her website, So I looked in that box, and there was only one little kid's pair of shoes in there, but there was all of these other things. Clothing, school supplies, graphing calculators, some really amazing technology, learning tools for children, a bunch of things. You see, the customers didn't necessarily pay attention. Maybe they didn't want to give their shoes, whatever. But they had an idea. They wanted to give other things to us. And since we gave them the address label and we didn't give them too much restrictions, we started getting boxes from all over the country with a bunch of interesting things. So we brought them over to a Safe Haven. It was all over the news in Chicago. Local startup makes an impact for people this Thanksgiving season, right? And we were amazed, and we knew we wanted to do something more with this. But that news got this website. They called us and said, listen, we've got a problem as well. It's a very fashionable website selling cool clothes. Our customers, they care about the environment. We want to figure out something to do with all the cardboard boxes that we mail our products in. So can we be part of this Give Back Box initiative? All right. We originally just wanted to do it for ourselves as a marketing cam. We never thought about the idea of getting other businesses involved with them, but this was amazing. Then we got a call from this company called Newegg. This is a website that sells computers. And they said, Chris, we've got big boxes. We mail computer monitors, everything. Imagine the amount of stuff people can fit in them. But we're a very big global company. We can't send everything to this nonprofit in Chicago. You guys need to find a bigger nonprofit partner to work with. So we set out to do that. We came across Goodwill. Goodwill is one of the largest nonprofits in the country. They help people start their lives over. They help them eliminate their own obstacles by putting them to work in their retail stores where people come in and donate old clothes. They clean them up and put them for sale. And everybody that works there is somebody that was once homeless, somebody that started a life over. So we called them up and said, listen, Goodwill, would you do us a favor? Is it possible that you guys receive these items for us? Because we think we might get more than what we originally anticipated. And boy, did we ever. We got so many during our first pilot that it was all over the news. And then we got the big call. You see, remember, Monica's original goal was to be on Amazon. Amazon called us and they said, listen, we love what you're doing. We want Give Back Box to be our give back model for the holiday season this year. And we're like, what? Our marketing campaign, Amazon wanted to make available to all of their retail sales associates, everyone that had an Amazon account, to be able to buy things on the internet, and by checking a box from Amazon, they'd be able to get this prepaid address label and mail their charitable stuff back to Goodwills around the entire country. And this was shocking. It wasn't the way we ever anticipated. We thought we were going to get Monica's shoes on Amazon, but instead her marketing campaign that everyone else thought was such a good idea is what got her on Amazon. And, well, we were off to the races. There's Give Back Box on the side of the Goodwill Distribution Center. So many boxes came in, as you can see. So many that she was featured in the NASDAQ sign for making impact and really changing the way people think about their items at home and giving back to charity. Now, it's amazing to see all these great photos, but here's some actual results that came from it. This marketing campaign has shipped over 1 million Give Back Boxes for people. Through that process during the pandemic, Lego Toys decided they were going to do a campaign that was going to help People take their old Legos, return them back so they can redistribute them to people that have never had toys to play with like Legos. And we were responsible for shipping 55,000 pounds. That's 20 million Lego toys around the world through Give Back Box model. In 2020 alone, 1.4 million pounds of clothing received a second life. That's a lot, a tremendous lot. So much so that that's 19 million pieces of clothing that were diverted from landfills. That's real statistics. That's real outcomes. And why that matters so much is because Monica helped these places, Karmaloop, Newegg, Amazon, eliminate some of their barriers. Well, where she started off as a shoe store, Give Back Box became her business. And these are all the people that decided to use Give Back Box as their charitable give back model. And a lot of them on there were direct competitors of a Monica shoe store. A lot of them are shoes companies. A lot of those people were people that Monica originally set out in competition with. And they all became her customers. They all became people that worked with her new business, Give Back Box, to actually change the world. You see, what all these people share is a very important thing. Authenticity. They stand true to themselves. They follow the rules. They don't blame people for their obstacles. They don't take a victim stance. They find out how they can help other people eliminate their obstacles. They don't spend all of their time focused on what makes them different from other people, but they spend the majority of their time thinking about what makes them the same. Authenticity is the new disruptive. People come to me all the time and say, Chris, I've got a disruptive product. I'm going to change the world. Well, authenticity is new disruptive, not that person's product. These weird approaches that I'll say that all started off in my life trying to eliminate an obstacle of being too chubby to fit in an astronaut suit and go to space has become my life passion. And in 2021, I followed my mom's advice that she gave me my entire life, and that's to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. It doesn't matter. You can be the smartest person in the room right now, but I guarantee you that there are smarter people than you, and you need to find them. You need to spend time with them and not be afraid to not be the smartest person in the room. And because I wasn't afraid of that, I was chosen as one of the Institute of Real Growth's top 100 chief marketing officers in the world. The other people on this list were people like the CMO of Ford, Nissan, Old Mutual in Africa, a good friend of mine is CMO from there. The cell phone company, Vodacom, Vodafone. These are the people I spent 7 months with. And I did it all from the middle of the desert, started during the pandemic. And I actually learned more about life by being surrounded with people that were far smarter than me, that have eliminated obstacles broader than me, that have changed lives in larger capacities than I am. And one thing that I learned for certain from all of them, and this is what I'll close on, it's very important every single day when we wake up and we go in the mirror and we think about where we've been in life, that we ask ourselves one question. Today, am I doing things for the right reasons? Because you see, when you do things for the right reasons every single day, you won't face obstacles. When you spend your time, as opposed to trying to change your circumstances to better your life, when you do things for the right reasons, you are bettering your life in eliminating your circumstances. When you do things for the right reasons, things won't end for the wrong reasons. So I appreciate the time that I get to have with people like all of you. It's important to share your stories. We all come from situations where life isn't always easy. And although I haven't faced some of the challenges and obstacles that all of you have faced in your life, I certainly know what it means to face obstacles and how to get there. I'm proud of every single one of you. I mean, Remy speaks so highly of everyone in the room right now. But there's been so many obstacles that many of you faced that I bet at some point in your life you never thought you'd be sitting in this room. You never thought that you may be going to university in the UK, the US. You may have never thought you'd have the opportunity to chase your dream. You see, all of you are resilient leaders. Some of you just don't know it yet. So it's been a very distinct honor for me to spend this time with you today, Remy and class. It's truly a gift. And I dedicate my life to eliminating obstacles and barriers, and I'll be there for all of you anytime that I can, through mentorship, through help, anything I can to help you eliminate your obstacles and help you get on your journey to helping other people eliminate theirs. So thank you so much, Remy. That's all I got for a presentation today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's really amazing, having you again. And this is usually what we get whenever you are you are making your presentation. Nothing short of this is as expected. Really interesting. Unfortunately, we have issue with the kids. Their
I'm sure you
network.
probably recorded it, most likely,
Yeah.
so they can watch it whenever. And I'll always be available to meet with all of them. I know they were in there for a large part of it.
Yes. So what we're going to do is my boss is here, His Excellency Ugwumba is here, and then the DG of Rochas Foundation is also here. So what we're going to do is we'll do the formalities, and then when their network is back, I just send them the link to the YouTube so that they can begin the session afresh. So it's a pity that we ran into this kind of technical hitch. DG, are you there? Hello, DG, are you there?
Yes, Mr. Remy, I can hear you.
Okay.
If Ugwumba can go real quick, because I'm just trying to reconnect.
Okay. My boss had just gone off, maybe network too. But it's been
I think the kids are back. Mr. Remy, I think the kids are back. Could you connect? I think there's someone in the waiting room. If you can connect back.
Okay. Yeah. Not yet. I've not seen anyone. That would be wonderful if they can come back before.
Yes, because they said they have a lot of questions. So,
wonderful,
sorry,
wonderful.
Mr. Chris, if you could just give us 5
Oh,
minutes.
no, take as much time as you need. It's like 5:50 in the morning where I'm at. I've got nothing going on. I enjoy these times.
Very good, very good.
Let's just give us 5 minutes.
Not a problem.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chris. Thank you so much. This is good. I will not forget to let you know that this message, you're going to repeat it during the Enterprise Challenge. When we have a larger house.
I love the Enterprise Challenge. It's such a great thing.
About 1,000 young entrepreneurs from across the country. I think they need to hear this message. This is really inspiring. It got me thinking.
You're always thinking, my friend. So anytime I can add to that is a gift.
Yeah. The message got me thinking. The initiatives, the innovative, ideas that those founders came up with that changed the way things are done in the US. It's something that we need to learn from. And I'm sure that the young founders that we have in Nigeria, especially those that are joining us this year, they are going to benefit from this inspiring message. So please.
Well, I will gladly be there.
Yeah, keep the slide, for us, because we're not going to.
Always.
Thank you so much. So while we wait for the kids, you can take water or tea or coffee. Let's just hang on. Good, thank you.
Not a problem at all. And again, if you ever need me to come back to answer questions at any point, I'll gladly make myself available for you always, Remy. You know that.
Fantastic. I appreciate that as usual. Thank you. We love you so much. Okay, while we wait, there's a comment from the live session. Those that joined on the live session, someone Obilo Emeka is saying, "What's the difference between vision and dream?" Can you have that? You are muted.
Got it. And a dream. That's such a wonderful question. The idea of a dream, oftentimes, there's not necessarily a pathway to get there yet. And just like an idea, the difference between a goal and an idea is if it's attainable. And same thing between vision and a dream. A vision means that you've taken an idea that is an attainable goal, and you have a clear understanding of how you're going to get there. And to take your dream and turn it into something requires vision. It's where you take the next step from the dream and chart a path to get there, right? So I think it's a wonderful question. I think a dream ultimately is what comes first. That's your goal. And a goal is something that has to be attainable. Otherwise, it's just an idea. And how you get there is by having vision. So consider vision to be the fuel and the pathway for you to get to your dreams.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. Obilo, I hope you have heard that, the difference between vision and dream. The vision is the fuel, according to Mr. Chris. Thank you so much, sir. So the children are here now. Can we have the children? Okay, let me put them. Okay, so Rochas children. So sorry for the network that kicked you out, out of the session. But the good thing is that we have all of this recorded on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So we're going to send you the link for you to start from the beginning once again. So, but then now you are here. I want to know who wants to talk, who wants to share how you feel, or if you have questions, can we take them one after the other? How do you feel? Then the questions.
Any question?
Not just questions.
Go ahead. Yeah, give them the mic. Sorry. Go ahead and speak. Hello, are you there? Okay.
Good afternoon.
Yeah,
hi there.
Go ahead.
My name is Mohammed. I'm from Niger Republic. Okay, I just want to know the challenges you faced during your time and what do you call success to you also?
The challenges that I faced is ultimate. Is that what the question was, Remy? What the challenges I faced?
Yes.
I think really what it is every single day, I think we all face challenges, right? Obviously I had drug addiction as a problem. Obviously of all the things, I think the biggest thing that was a challenge for me is that I spent most of my life working in politics. Politics isn't necessarily a respected thing. It was harder for me to get away from my past in politics than it was for me to get away from the fact that I was a drug addict and homeless, right? But the biggest challenge that I faced is in my life has always been thinking that my past defines me, right? That my challenges and my obstacles is what makes me who I am. But those aren't what make me who I am. Reacting to them is what made me who I am. You see, I always thought that it was the wake that was behind me, the wake behind my boat in life. I thought it was that moved my boat forward, when in fact it was my boat moving forward that was actually creating the wake behind it. So my biggest challenge was overcoming myself, overcoming self-doubt. Just because I'm one of these leaders in these worldly programs and all that doesn't mean that I don't sometimes have doubt in myself. And then so overcoming the biggest challenge, that's why I said at the very beginning that the biggest obstacle we'll all face to changing the world is ourselves. So just like all of you, whenever you kind of face a challenge, such as thinking if you're good enough, if it's the right time, if you're in the right place, just think for a moment, you are in the right place. It is the right time. And not only are you good enough, you're great. And once you start realizing that, then your challenges start to disappear. What I said right at the end of my presentation, and I implore you, I talk about a bunch of challenges if you watch the video, is that I always spent most of my time trying to change all the circumstances in my life to give myself a better life. And what I realized is that if I just focus on figuring out what a better life is for me and going for that, then all of my circumstances disappear, right? So setting goals, having a pathway to get there, never giving up on yourself. These things were all challenges. And once I realized that I could overcome them, they've all been some of the greatest gifts in my life. Thank you for the question.
Okay. Who else?
Okay, my name is Christina. I'm from South Sudan. And as he was speaking, he said he has been to the prison. So I
Yes.
just wanted to know if he. Oh, okay, sorry. If what is it that you did in the prison productive that you used after to shape your life? Or you're using right now for
That's
a good job.
that's an amazing question. I love that. Every single day, I literally went around and became. There are still people today that I was in prison with that I still talk to. I took time to ask people their story, right? I asked them. Of course, everybody wants to know what people were in jail for, right? But what I asked them for is what they missed on the outside, what they cared about in their life. I asked them, there's this one guy, and every single day I heard him make a phone call, right? And it was at the same time every single day. And he was kind of whispering on the phone in jail. And he was sometimes talking in a little kid voice to someone. And one time I asked him, like, what is this phone call that you're doing every day? And he told me that his son has autism, right? A developmental disorder. And this guy was going to go to prison for 20 years. So he probably would not see that child for a long time. So I basically sat with him and I said, listen, I says, who's going to take care of your child when you're in prison? He had no answer for it. He started crying. And I realized that here, this big, tough criminal would spend every single day at the same time calling his young son, telling him stories, playing kid games with him over the phone. And that touched me so much in my life that later in life, I got involved in making an impact in children's lives that had autism. We made so much impact in that space that we're even featured on the Today Show, one of the big American television shows for our impact for children and autism. All of that happened because of that person in jail that I took the time to ask him what he cared about and did something with that information when he couldn't. So it doesn't matter. Never judge the people that are around you. Instead of taking time to judge people, instead of focusing on what makes you different than other people, take a moment to think about what makes you the same as them and do something with that information. And that's exactly what I did with everything I learned from people in jail.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good. Any other question or comment?
Okay, so my name is Yosef Tesfaye. I'm an Ethiopian. And thank you very much for what you have shared with us so far. It has really been helpful. And I wanted to ask a question. My question is, at the beginning of your story, when you were telling us, you mentioned the fact that you went to jail. And actually, I like American books. And from those books, I've been able to understand that it's really bad to have such a record on such a thing on your record. Like people have a bad image about you. So how are you able to correct that image of that people had about you?
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I'm technically a felon, right? And a felon normally would have restrictions. They wouldn't be able to get certain jobs. They wouldn't be able to do certain things. Not only have I ever overcome all of that, I've even spent time with 2 United States presidents since then, right? I've done some pretty amazing things. And the reason is because I shared my story with people right away. I told people about it. I didn't run from it. I faced my obstacles head on. I didn't believe people when they told me I couldn't do things. I didn't listen to people when they said my life was over. And there's a lot of great information in the presentation if you watch the YouTube video where I address exactly what I did with that and exactly how I made an impact afterwards. But it was never letting that define me. Instead, I met the definition myself. I wasn't going to be Chris Foltz, formerly incarcerated individual. I was going to be Chris Foltz, person that did something with his incarceration. And I told the world about it and helped other people, and here I am today. We might have lost them again, Remy. Oh, there they are.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Is there any other? Do we have any other question? Okay. In the absence of any other question,
Mr. Remy, I think
Then,
I think I heard them murmur to say they just wanted to say thank you. So maybe
okay,
someone can quickly do that. Yes, I think that's what they were
okay,
saying.
okay, okay. So who's in there?
Today, sir, my name is Malik Ba from the Gambia, and today I've learned a lot from you. I want to say thank you for giving us your time, and we really appreciate you. We can never take it for granted. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do a lot of work in Kampala. Love the area. Glad to see you. They're from there. I really appreciate. Thank all of you for being there. I implore you to watch the video. I implore you to find me on the internet. I'll be there to answer any questions for you and help you eliminate obstacles.
Very good. Very good. Very good. So at this juncture, I want to invite our DG, the DG of Rochas Foundation, the foremost charity organization that focuses on providing education, making education free of charge for millions of children in Africa. So, Mr. Chris, before you is Miss Uchechi Rochas Okorocha. She is the DG Rochas Foundation. So, over to you, DG.
Very nice to meet you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chris. Good afternoon, Mr. Remy. Good afternoon,
Thank you.
ex-students of Rochas Foundation College of Africa. I was backstage for a while and I was watching everything that was going on. Thank you so much, Mr. Chris, for your time. I think Mr. Remy definitely hid you for too long because this was a mind-blowing discussion. I mean, just your experience alone can probably fit into 30, 40 books. It's amazing to meet such an inspirational being. Thank you for taking out time to impact the kids. I know they would definitely have to go back and watch the videos. I want to watch it again because I think there's several lessons that can be learned from all you've said. For several, I mean, we live in such a motivational world where people believe that to be disruptive is to come up with some um, world changing idea or some undiscovered truth of some sort. But just what you had said about authenticity is definitely a timely message for the students of Rufoka. Letting them know that their stories, and I think that's one of the major takeaways for me, is that their stories are authentic in itself, right? And it's from that message of who they are and what they can develop in their authenticity that would bring about innovation, that would bring about success, or whatever that means to them. So thank you so much for your time. I will definitely not just be playing this message for the students of the Rochas Foundation College of Africa, but just be rest assured that with your permission, the 9,700 students in the Rochas Foundation schools across Nigeria will definitely be sent this message so that they too can benefit from all you've said. And hopefully one day you'll be able to come here to Nigeria and speak to them live. We're probably going to have to rent out a stadium for that. We'll be more than happy to have you here. And just the story you had told about how it started with the books and the shoes and the boxes and clothes. Honestly, that resonated because that is essentially this story of the Rochas Foundation, right? So it started with one child, and then it became 5,000 children, and then it became 35,000 and 40,000. With from one school, we are now at about 14 schools located across Nigeria. From one country, we have representation from 24 African countries. So it's that thing of the goodwill and the vision just multiplying over time once there's an earnest passion to impact the less privileged and impact those who need it the most in our society. So thank you. It's great to know that we have partners across the borders that share the same vision and passion. And this will definitely not be the last time we'll be hearing from you as a body. We hope for more. Mr. Remy, please do not hide Mr. Chris any further from the Rochas Foundation. He's now a part of us. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you. I appreciate you so much and everything that you do. I, of course, have spent a lot of time looking into all the impact your organization has made, and I'm truly honored to do everything I can from where I'm at. And as Remy knows, Africa means a lot to me. I never thought that I would care about places outside of America. My goal was to run for governor and run for president of the United States. I found true passion in Africa, and I'm excited about it every single day. So it doesn't matter what time of the day, what part of the year, I'll always be there for you and all of the people you care about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you'll also be here in person at some point.
Yes, I will. Like, I'm literally trying to plan a trip for next year already. So Remy's already been on my case. He wants me to come out there. So I look forward to that moment, and it will happen.
We will all be
here. Okay. So, DG, will you permit me to unofficially announce Mr. Chris as a global ambassador for the Rochas Foundation, unofficially?
Absolutely. Students, please put your hands together. Definitely. It's something we'll be honored to have. Like I had a meeting that ran slightly late, but from when I joined in, I was just inspired. I have just goosebumps all over. It's just great to see the work that he's done and the passion and just the ability to share his story just unapologetically in its full form. It's something that it's truly an honor to meet you and speak with you. So definitely official, not unofficial, official ambassador. And
Thank you so much. I'm deeply honored.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Remy.
Thank you so much. So at this juncture, thank you, our global ambassador. Thank you for your time. And we are going to make this official and get His Excellency, our President, also involved in this this appointment. It's something that we are so grateful for joining us this afternoon. So the students are grateful and they are happy. Just like we said, this video, we are going to share it across the country. All the Rochas Foundation colleges in the 14 cities in Nigeria. We're going to share it for them to learn from the message that you have dropped this afternoon. So thank you once again on behalf of the DG and my boss, His Excellency Ugwumba Leadership. Want to appreciate you, want to thank you for being part of this African Students Leadership Academy today. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you both. Thank you very much. See you, everyone. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.